The stuffed rabbit hit the floor before the Marine's boots did. It landed soft side down, brown velvet, ears flat, button eyes catching the red emergency light that pulsed through the corridor. Corporal Lin Zhang barely glanced at it. She was already moving, plasma torch in her left hand, the rabbit tucked back under her arm in the same motion, and ahead of her stretched 17 layers of enemy bulkheads standing between her and a 6-year-old girl named Amara. 47 ships, 847 children, 1 Marine per child, spread across 3 systems, and every single one of them carrying something soft. No weapons check, no battle stations, no targeting lock. Just boots on metal, plasma torches burning blue-white, and June Harlow's voice cutting through every comm channel in 12 languages at once. You took human children hostage. We're here to read them a bedtime story. You have 6 minutes to evacuate your ships. Somewhere on the ZH-Karn flagship, a sound started up, a chittering, clicking rhythm that the translator rendered as laughter. Deep, layered, contemptuous. Warscythe Draxvin of the ZH-Karn hive had been awake for 4 minutes, and he was already laughing. He had 4 minutes and 12 seconds left before he stopped. Lin Zhang hit the first layer of bulkhead with her torch. Blue fire kissed steel. The burn smelled like ozone and old machine grease. She did not look at the clock on her wrist display. She already knew the number. 22 minutes. That was the whole plan, 22 minutes between first cut and last child carried free. The rabbit's name was Clover. The part that told them everything they got wrong, that comes in 6 minutes. 11 hours earlier, the obsidian pavilion smelled like cold metal and old stone, and something underneath both, a faint ionized bite that the ventilation system never fully cleared, as though the building itself remembered every threat that had been delivered inside it. Ambassador Nadia Corvin sat at the human delegation's table, sunken 12 feet below the main floor by design, so that every other species in the gallery looked down at her, and pressed her thumb against the warm glass of her teacup. Earl Grey. 73 seconds past boiling. Deliberately wrong. She had brewed it that way every morning for 11 years. A small, specific wrongness she kept like a wound she chose not to let close, and the heat against her thumb was exactly the reminder she needed right now. The neural implant at the base of her skull gave a low, soft pulse. 847 biosigns, catalogued and tracked. Every 6 hours one would go dark. Above the circular pit of the Council of 12, the holographic display ran footage that Nadia had already watched 4 times. Grainy, unsteady, cruel in its clarity. The colony transport cradle haven, hull breached, drifting in the Viridian Rift. ZH-Karn boarders in black segmented chitin moving through the passenger hold, each one wearing a necklace of small bones. Children being pulled from compartments by their arms, their legs. One small girl still holding a toy rocket as a raider dragged her toward a transport bay. The girl's name, Nadia knew, was Dawa, age 7. She liked drawing animals with sidewalk chalk. Pale stone columns rose 300 feet on every side. 412 witness stations packed the upper galleries. 11 species watching with their various eyes, their faceted surfaces, their luminous membranes. Most of them were not watching the footage anymore. They were watching Nadia. Warscythe Draxvin leaned over the council pit. 9 feet of black exoskeleton, bioluminescent nerve lines tracing gold along his thorax, 4 compound eyes arranged vertically in glowing amber. 47 kill trophies hung from a cord across his chest, finger bones, mostly, cleaned and dried. He spoke in resonant thorax clicks, and the translator turned them flat and cold. Your hatchlings occupy 47 holding cells across 3 systems. Every 6 hours you delay our claim to the outer fringe colonies. We deliver 1 child to the V-hen flesh markets. You have 28 standard cycles to comply. Several of the iller diplomats, avian, jeweled beaks, wing feathers folded back in what served them as a shrug, shifted in their seats. Somewhere in the upper gallery, a sound that might have been amusement moved through the witness stations like a wave. The 6 seats reserved for the full human delegation sat empty. There had only ever been human observers here. No votes, no voice, just a table 12 feet below everyone else's. Nadia finished her tea. She set the cup down with a deliberate click on the stone rim of the table. Then she looked at Draxvin. She held it for 11 seconds, long enough that the room, one by one, went quiet, long enough that his bioluminescent nerve lines shifted color, brightening from gold to a sharp, pulsing violet. She leaned forward and pressed her microphone. "Thank you for the timeline." She stood. 47 human staff stood with her. Not a word spoken between them, not a signal she had seen anyone give. They simply rose, the way a tide rises, and they walked out of the obsidian pavilion in a column so quiet that the only sound was footsteps on cold stone. Behind her, the Iller diplomats preened their wing feathers. The witness stations in the upper gallery hummed with noise. The holographic display kept running. Nadia Corvin did not look back. Earth, 11 hours later. Or rather, it was the same moment just seen from below ground. Faro Canyon Bunker had been commissioned in 2037, 9 years before first contact with the Xylos Compact, 28 years before anyone in the Compact knew it existed. It sat beneath 400 meters of Scandinavian shield bedrock, and the air inside it tasted like recycled steel and old paper, and the particular flatness of a space that had been sealed and resealed so many times the walls had forgotten what outside smelled like. Nadia walked the main corridor. The lights were the same low amber they had always been. Something about the spectrum kept people calmer. The original designers had decided, or maybe they had just run out of the other kind. On her left, in polished steel frames bolted directly to the stone, 2,103 service photographs stared at her. Men and women in uniform, some young enough that the photos looked like school pictures, some old enough that the uniform seemed to be holding them up, all of them dead, none of them killed in anything the Compact would ever call a war. Above the photographs, in letters cut directly into the bedrock, "We did not survive by hoping for mercy." She touched the compass at her throat. Silver, cold, the size of a thumbprint, the brass ring worn smooth from decades of rubbing. Through the fogged glass face, the needle pointed northwest, the same direction it had pointed for 33 years, since the morning her sister gave it to her, the day before a ZH Karn raiding party hit the settlement on Callisto, and her sister did not come home. The coordinates engraved on the back were for a house on a moon that no longer had people in it. The needle had not moved since. She let go of it and pushed open the door to the war room. The room was circular, lit from below, and it smelled of sourdough bread. Father Mateo Santos, 72 years old, white beard, wooden cross on a plain leather cord, stood at the far end of a steel table breaking a loaf with his bare hands. He was humming something under his breath, an old song. Nadia didn't know the name of it. Around the table, 6 people who had been awake for 31 consecutive hours. Technician Ravi Solin, 26, sat with his elbows on the table and his thumbnail at his teeth, dark circles deep enough to look bruised. His twin brother had died in a ZH Karn boarding action on a mining platform in 2061. Ravi had been 15. He had joined the program the day he turned 18 and had never once asked for a reassignment. Logistics Officer Kendra Moss, 38, sat with her spine perfectly straight, a data tablet face down in front of her. She tapped her wedding ring 3 times with her index finger. 1, 2, 3. A habit she'd carried since the funeral, 4 years back, when her husband's coffin had been lowered into the ground on a rainy Thursday, and she'd stood there tapping her ring against her palm because it was the only thing she could think to do. Archivist Tomás Ruiz, 55, sat to the left of Father Mateo with a small leather journal open in front of him. His white beard was trimmed neater than Father Mateo's. He wrote in the journal with a mechanical pencil, moving slowly, and every few minutes he would stop, look up at the photographs on the wall, and hum the same 3 notes that Father Mateo was humming, as if they had been doing this so long they had stopped needing to coordinate. General Takashi Webb, 49, sat at the head of the table. His left arm ended at the elbow and picked up again as a matte gray prosthetic, precise, military issue. The fingers capable of more fine motor control than the original, which he sometimes mentioned with the particular tone of someone who was describing a thing he hated. The prosthetic fingers were drumming a slow, steady rhythm on the edge of the table. And then there was June Harlow, Communications Officer 29. She was knitting. Not slowly, not hesitantly, fast and sure. A gray scarf growing from the needles like something being pulled out of her hands by the universe's own need for it. She did not look up when Nadia entered. She was listening to casualty projections through one earbud. "Do we have a code name?" June said, without looking up. "Or are we calling this operation We're Really Fucking Angry?" General Webb's prosthetic fingers stopped drumming. The corner of his mouth moved. "Operation They Fucked Around," he offered. Father Mateo set down the bread. He cleared his throat. "Operation Burning Sunrise." Silence. Then Kendra tapped her ring 3 more times and reached for a piece of bread. Ravi took one too. June tucked her knitting into her lap and reached across the table. Tamaz wrote the name carefully in his journal. Webb nodded once. The bread was passed. The name was accepted. Outside, under 400 meters of rock, it was raining. Nadia took her seat and did not touch her tea. 847 children, she said. 47 holding cells, 3 systems, 28 cycles before the first child is sold. The ZH-Karn have 212 warships. The Vihen Dominion have 89. The Kuros Federation have 143. She looked at General Webb. Total hostile combatants, 444 ships. Total human stealth vessels ready for deployment, 19. Webb's prosthetic fingers went still on the table. Casualty projection. ZH-Karn Vihen Kuros, Nadia said. 100% combatant fatality. 0 human losses. Children recovered, 847. Ravi Solon stopped chewing his thumbnail. The room was very quiet for a moment. Father Mateo crossed himself. Tamaz wrote something in his journal, then stopped, and just looked at what he had written. 19 against 444, Kendra said. "We're not engaging them," Nadia said. "We're walking through their airlocks." She told them what 37 years had built. The quantum blind spot arrays, seeded into compact sensor networks over 11 years, 3 months and 8 days, by Zen Syndicate specialists working under cover of standard maintenance contracts. 7 Zen executed when their cover broke, 14 more who simply disappeared. Each one had known, going in, what the odds of coming home were. The emergency docking clamps, pre-installed on 444 enemy warships over 3 years by Goreth salvagers who looked to compact customs agents, like the rock-like, slow-moving maintenance workers they had always been. 23 Goreth died during installation. Their bodies had drifted in vacuum, unclaimed, because claiming them would have exposed the program. The Goreth had agreed to this condition before the first team shipped out. The reactor override devices, teacup-sized, containing enough quantum degenerate field disruption to collapse a warship's containment array from the inside, not explosions, implosions. Each enemy vessel compressed to a sphere 3 feet wide, 1,747 of them, waiting. Ravi pulled his thumb from his teeth. "The arrays are still active, all of them." "Every one," Nadia said, "as of 6 hours ago." Tamaz had stopped writing. He was looking at the photographs on the wall. 23 Goreth, he said quietly. "Yes." "And the 7 Zen." "Yes." He opened his journal to a new page and began to write. The knock on the bunker's secure channel came 40 minutes later. Nadia took the call on the main display. She appeared as a serpentine column of shifting color, Ambassador S.H. Vera of the Aaron Collective, 12 feet of scale and memory, bronze and old copper in the light, the oldest living diplomat in the Xylos Compact, and one of the 12 beings in the galaxy who had personally witnessed a species go extinct and survived to document it. She was 1,400 years old. She moved the way time moves, without hurry, without waste. Her forked tongue flickered 3 times, then twice more. "Nadia Corvin," she said. Her voice came through the translator as a whisper with edges, the way a librarian sounds when something has made them afraid. "I have been reading your history, all of it, not the summary the compact keeps. The full record." She paused. Her scales shifted slightly, bronze cooling toward ash at the edges. "The Mongol campaigns, the Congo, the Holocaust, the rape of Nanking, 3,847 years of recorded conflict, and I have read what you did afterward, to yourselves, to your own history." "Ambassador," Nadia said, You are the only species in this galaxy, SHV said, that documents its own war crimes on both sides and teaches them to your children in school. You do not pretend the atrocity was done by someone else. You put it in the curriculum. You make children read the names. The scales at her throat darkened to ash gray. You do not forget. You do not forgive. But you do something I have not seen another species do. You calculate. Nadia did not answer right away. We've been calculating, she said, for 37 years. What SHV brought to the table was 6 species. Not armies, not warships mostly. Just 6 groups of people who had been quietly ignored by the compact for long enough that they had stopped expecting anyone to notice them, and who had spent that time building things the compact had never thought to look for. The Frel clans, 890,000, four-armed, cat-like, fast in small craft, invisible in sensor shadows. They had been running stealth mapping operations on ZH-Karn patrol routes for 11 years. No one had asked them to. They had done it because they saw what was being built and they wanted to be ready when the time came. The Gorath remnants, 47 million, silicon-based, slow-moving, vacuum-resistant, radiation-immune, and patient in a way that most species found unsettling. They had found patrol routes, maintenance schedules, docking approach vectors. They had spent 3 years installing hardware on enemy ships while disguised as the maintenance workers they had always been. 23 had died. None of them had told their families where they were going. The Asara Union, 2 million biochemists, floating bioluminescent membranes, fragile in most atmospheres, extraordinary in theirs. They had developed non-lethal extraction agents, sedation compounds calibrated for human children, and had been refining the formula for 8 years. They had been waiting for someone to ask. The Zen Syndicate, 340,000, metallic-skinned, neural-linked, their digital consciousness backed up in distributed systems so that no single death was truly a death, though the ones who had been executed had disagreed with that in their final moments. They controlled every sensor array within reach of the 3 systems holding the children. The Aaron Collective itself, 12 million engineers, oral historians, and archivists, who remembered 3,847 years of galactic atrocity and had decided, 1,400 years ago, to stop recording and start building. And then there was one more. The display shifted. What appeared was not a face. It was a hull, or rather, it was something that had been a hull once and had grown past that into something else. Bone white, 2 kilometers long. The surface moved very slightly, the way skin moves when the thing beneath it breathes. The vessel's name was Carries the Fallen. It was 900 years old. It was the last survivor of a species that had no other survivors, and it had spent the last 4 centuries in compact neutral space doing what its name said, carrying the dead. It had not spoken in 60 years. It spoke now. The voice came through the translator like wind passing through the narrow gap between 2 stone walls. Not loud, not rushed, the kind of quiet that is weight. I have watched 1,847 civilizations die, it said. Most died begging, some died fighting. I have not in 9 centuries watched a species prepare in silence for 37 years and move only when their children were threatened. The room was very still. This is not vengeance, Carries the Fallen said. This is surgery. Nadia touched her compass. The needle under her thumb pointed northwest. Surgery leaves scars, she said. We'll mourn what we have to become, but we'll become it. The Gorath had found the roots. The Zen had killed the sensors. The Frel had mapped the cells. 112 allied ships. 19 human stealth vessels. 131 total. 444 enemy warships believing they were watching 6 outdated human frigates and whatever scrap the minor species had left. They had stopped counting 11 years ago. Cipher 7. The Zen representative, metallic-skinned, her neural implants glowing faint blue at her temples, pulled up the tactical overlay. Blind spots active. Full sensor suppression across all 3 systems. They will not see us dock. She tapped one point on the map. The Kuros flagship has an additional internal sensor array independent circuit. We have a 40-second window to suppress it manually on entry. She looked at Nadia. The Frel team is ready. Ravi Solon was chewing his thumbnail again. His eyes tracked the display. 444 clamp points confirmed, he said, not to anyone in particular. 23 Goreth died for those clamp points. He stopped chewing. I just want to say that out loud. No one argued with him. Tamaz was writing in his journal, head down, the pencil moving steady. He would not stop writing, Nadia knew, until every name was on the page. He had been doing this for 12 years. He had never missed a name. The rehook the compact never saw coming was not a weapon. It was a photograph. June Harlow set 23 photographs on the War Council table, printed on standard paper, slightly blurred, the kind of image that comes from a school database or a family archive. Children's faces. A girl with her front teeth missing and her eyes squinted shut against sun. Twin boys, maybe 8 years old, hugging a golden retriever. A boy with a gap-toothed smile holding a toy rocket with both hands like it was going somewhere. She slid them across the table without speaking. SHV's scales had been bronze since she arrived on screen. Now they went ash-gray in a single, slow shift, like a cloud crossing the sun. Her forked tongue came out once, twice, 3 times. She reached out and touched the photograph of the boy with the rocket. Her fingers, long scaled, not designed for the width of a printed page, were very careful. A tear formed at the inner corner of her right eye, translucent. It tracked down her scales and fell from her jaw and landed on the table and sat there like a small lens, pooling into a perfect circle of liquid glass. They are not leverage, June said. Her voice was steady. She was still knitting, one-handed, not looking up. They are children who lose teeth and name their dogs ridiculous things. SHV looked up from the photograph. Her scales did not change back. Tell me, she said, what you need. Father Mateo broke the last of the sourdough. He broke it cleanly the way he always did and passed it left. Kendra took a piece, tapped her ring once, set it down. Ravi took a piece, stared at it. June tucked her knitting into her bag and took a piece. General Webb took a piece with his prosthetic hand, turned it over once, then set it flat on the table. Tamaz closed his journal. Nadia took the last piece. For a moment the only sound was the hum of the bunker's recycled air, and the faint tick of Webb's prosthetic fingers settling. Then Nadia touched her compass. The needle pointed northwest. Still, 33 years of north, of a grave on a dead moon, of a morning that had not ended. Not yet, she said to no one, or maybe to her sister. She set the bread down untouched. 0447, she said, let's go. Somewhere 400 meters above her, it was still raining. Somewhere in 3 separate star systems, 847 children were breathing in the dark, and a clock was running, and the ZH Karn Warsythe Draxvin was asleep in his command nest with no alarm set because 444 warships, in his estimation, were alarm enough. He had stopped counting humanity 11 years ago. He would have 6 minutes to regret that. 19 human vessels slid through the dark without a sound. Their quantum cloaks left no wake, no heat signature, no light. The sensor networks that should have seen them showed nothing. Clean, calm, empty space. The way it had shown for 11 years while the arrays were being planted, and the clamps were being bolted, and the names were being written into Tamaz Ruiz's leather journal one by one. Ahead of them 47 ships, 847 children, 1 Marine per child, each Marine carrying something soft. The bone-white hull of Carries the Fallen filled the tactical display, and for a moment no one in the bunker spoke. Then Cipher 7 broke the silence with 3 words. Blind spots confirmed live. That was the signal. Ravi pulled up the clock on the main board. His thumbnail was bleeding slightly. He had not noticed. The numbers were clean and brutal. 19 vessels, 112 Allied ships, 131 total, against 444 warships that believed they were watching empty space. Window opens in 40 minutes, Ravi said. QROS Independent Array has a 40-second suppression gap on entry. Frel team has been sitting in sensor shadow for 6 hours. Nadia nodded. How are they? Ravi almost smiled. Skrit says, and I'm quoting, "We have been sitting in a tin can eating cold rations. Please let us do something." June snorted without looking up from her knitting. General Webb's prosthetic fingers lay flat on the table, still, deliberate. the way a person goes still when they are deciding not to show anything. All 847 Marines confirmed at airlock staging, one per child. Each team has the Asara extraction compound calibrated for human children, ages 4 to 16. They'll be out before the children are fully awake. And the stuffed animals? Father Mateo asked. Webb looked at him. Every team confirmed. Father Mateo nodded as if this were the most important logistics update of the evening. He picked up his wooden cross, turned it once, set it down. Good, he said. SHV had been quiet for several minutes. Her scales sat between bronze and ash, not one, not the other. 37 years, she said. You had enough after 15, the arrays were functional, the clamps were placed. Why did you wait? Nadia picked up her teacup, cold, she drank it anyway. Because every day we didn't was a day we chose not to, she said. We could have done this 20 years ago, 10, any morning we wanted. Every day we waited was a gift we gave them, a chance they never used. She set the cup down. That's not weakness. That's the hardest thing a species can do. Have the power and choose every single morning not to use it. SHV was quiet. Then, they mistook your silence for permission. It was a countdown, Nadia said. Tamaz looked up from his journal. I want to read a name, he said. He found the line and read it aloud. Private Sula Varin, age 19, 4 years in the program, technical support. Currently on medical hold, appendix surgery, recovery room, 3rd floor. He paused. She trained 4 years for this operation. She will not be in the boarding teams tonight. She does not know if what she built will matter. June had stopped knitting. She was looking at the ceiling. She'll know, June said, after. Tamaz nodded, yes, after. He picked up his pencil. Father Mateo broke the last piece of sourdough. Clean, deliberate, he passed it left. Kendra took a piece, tapped her ring. June set her knitting in her bag, took a piece. Webb took one with his prosthetic hand and set it flat on the table. Ravi held his without eating. Tamaz closed his journal. Nadia took the last. She set it down untouched. She touched her compass. The needle pointed northwest. 33 years of the same direction, the same dead moon, the same morning that had never finished ending. 0447, she said. Let's go. At 0447 Galactic Standard, 19 human stealth vessels dropped their cloaks simultaneously across 3 star systems. The compact sensor networks showed nothing. They had shown nothing for 11 years. On the ZH Karn flagship, Warscythe Draxvin was asleep. His bioluminescent nerve lines pulsed slow gold in the dark, the rhythm of something that believes it has already won. The airlock on his flagship opened without an alarm. He woke to the sound of boots. Human boots, lighter than he expected, smaller than he expected. June Harlow's voice cut through every comm channel in 12 languages, smooth and calm. You took human children hostage. We're here to read them a bedtime story. You have 6 minutes to evacuate your ships. Draxvin heard it. His nerve lines flared from gold to violet. He laughed, that chittering, layered clicking sound, each note rendered by the translator as mockery. He watched the human boarding parties on his interior cameras and laughed because 444 warships against 19 was not a military action. It was a mistake. He laughed for 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Then he noticed where the humans were going. Not the bridge, not the weapons bay, not the engine room. The holding cells. He stopped laughing. 17 layers of bulkhead stood between Corporal Lin Zhang and Cell Block 7. She cut through them with her plasma torch, the burn smelling like ozone and old metal, and something she had no name for. The frail pilot script pulled sections clear from the other side before she had to ask. 4 arms moving fast in a corridor 2 feet too short for ZH Karn, but exactly right for Frel. Last layer, Skrit said. Zhang went through while the edges were still hot. Amara was 6 years old. She sat in the back corner with her knees pulled up and her face pressed into them. When the light came in, she did not look up. She had learned not to. Zhang crossed the room in 4 steps and crouched down. Hey, I'm Lin. I'm here to take you home. Amara looked up. Careful eyes. A child who was not sure yet if less frightened was safe. She looked at Zhang's plasma torch, which Zhang had already set on the floor behind her. Then she looked at the stuffed rabbit. Zhang held it out. Amara took it, pressed it to her chest. Zhang cut the restraints, picked her up, carried her out through 5 layers of smoking bulkhead without looking back. Skrit was waiting. His 4 hands, usually in constant motion, went completely still when he saw the child. "Hello," he said, very carefully. Amara considered him. "You have 4 arms." "Yes," Skrit said. "That's useful," Amara said. Skrit made a sound that was either a laugh or a sob, and led them back to the ship. No weapons, no combat, no broadside fire. 847 Marines. 847 holding cells. Plasma torches and shaped charges, and, where neither worked, bare hands on hot metal. The Asara teams moved behind with sedation compounds and thermal blankets. Draxvin tried to close the internal bulkheads remotely. The Zen had been in his system for 11 years. The bulkheads did not respond. He tried to lock the airlock. The Goreth clamps held it open. He tried to raise an alarm on the compact channel. The blind spot arrays turned it to noise. 22 minutes after the first torch bit into the first bulkhead, every child was out. The 19 human vessels detached at 0541, clean, simultaneous. Behind them, 1,847 devices activated ship by ship, 3 seconds between each, the timing precise down to the last decimal. Not explosions, implosions. Each reactor containment field collapsed inward, folding space around itself, and 444 warships became 444 spheres of dense matter, each one about 3 feet wide, drifting in the dark where a navy used to be. Physics, just physics. Physics, and 847 children sleeping in med bays. Total elapsed time, 6 hours 47 minutes. 0 human combat deaths. 3 species no longer had a navy. In the war room, the tactical board showed 444 green lights go dark, one by one, in a steady 3-second pulse. No one cheered. Ravi pressed both hands flat on the table. Kendra tapped her ring once, twice, 3 times, then a 4th, which Nadia had never seen her do. Webb's prosthetic fingers lay still. June pulled out her knitting and kept going. On the display, SH Vera reached into the folds of her membrane and drew out a small, folded message. She read it, folded it again, set it beside her without speaking. Her scales did not change color. That was the tell. SH Vera, Nadia said. SH Vera's tongue flickered 3 times. Private Sula Varen died at 03:19 this morning. The appendix rupture was worse than the first scan showed. She died 6 hours before the operation launched. Her scales went ash-gray. She never knew. Tamaz opened his journal, found the entry, looked at it, added 2 words at the end of the line, closed the journal. She knew what she was building, he said. That's the same thing. The Xylos Compact convened an emergency session 14 hours later. The censure motion passed, 8-3. SH Vera rose from her station, 12 feet of bronze scale unwinding from its coil, and spoke once. You censure the species that recovered its children. You do not censure the species that took them. I dissent. The Aaron Collective withdraws from this body, effective immediately. She turned and left. 5 species followed. 3 days after the operation, Nadia sat on a bench outside the bunker with SH Vera, watching dawn come through the birch trees over unbroken snow. The tea was properly boiled, both cups. The first time in 11 years she had not timed it wrong. She held the cup with both hands and let the warmth go all the way through. 37 years of silence wasn't submission, she said. Every day we chose not to act was a gift we gave them. They just didn't know how to accept it. SH Vera sipped her tea. You did not celebrate. We don't teach our children to celebrate extinction, Nadia said. We teach them what it costs to choose it, so they never have to. They sat with that until the light changed. 3 months later, the 847 children came to Faro Canyon. They walked along the stone wall, 2,103 names cut into gray granite. 1 name had been added the week before, the cut still clean. Private Sula Verin, age 19. She built what she never saw. June stood at the base of the wall. The gray scarf was finished. She had finished the last row the night of the operation. sitting in the war room while 444 lights went dark. She had not worn it. She folded it carefully and draped it over the photograph below Sula's name. Stood back. Let it be. Nadia read all 2,103 names aloud. She did not rush. When she finished, she walked to the wall and unclasped the compass from her throat. Silver, worn smooth, the needle pointing northwest as it had for 33 years. She set it on the stone ledge among the flowers. The needle moved, slowly, the way a compass moves when it finds something true, not fast, not sudden, just the quiet turn of a thing that has finally found what it was pointing at. It stopped pointing northwest. It pointed south. 3 levels below, in the bunker's medical wing, 847 children slept in clean beds, still holding stuffed animals, a duck, a bear, a dragon with one crooked eye, a rabbit named Clover. Nadia left the compass on the stone, turned, and walked back toward the bunker through the flat gold morning light. She did not look back. The needle held south, catching the sun the way old things catch it, warm, worn, still.